how soon until you're testifying before Congress? Because obviously that's what we need to hear.
Well, and that's what I'm waiting. I'm asking why isn't the information Tulsi Gabbard has? Why hasn't that been released? It was last year where she said we have more than enough information and proof on the election machines to bring charges. Where are the charges? Why is nothing happening? And so that's what I'm seeking to find out. And we have the evidence. We have the people that actually did it. And then you can go back to, and I'm sure you've probably covered this, go back to the whistleblowers out of Venezuela that worked under Hugo Chavez and Maduro. And so now we have Delcy Rodriguez as the president down there. She was the head of CNE, who was the people that conduct the elections. And those elections, I don't know how much you've talked to your supporters about this, but this has been a huge election scheme where people have risked their lives to come forward to be whistleblowers in what's been going on in 72 countries around the world. There were files on my machine from the Philippines, from, sometime it would be good to have Mark Cook on so he can show you. He has the image of the Mesa County server on his computer, and he can show you without passwords or anything how easy it was to get in, how easy it is to get in and flip the vote. And you can do it in just minutes. What I want people to understand, and this is, people look at me now and they go, oh, well, if I was just Tina Peters, I could have done this or that. I was a nobody. I was just someone that stepped up to fix the 3.5 hour wait times at Motor V. I had skills, I had things that I felt that I could put to use to help the people in my county. And I think that's the most important thing. If you have a heart for people, when I was being prepared for trial, and I had a really tough attorney that was going to step in and be the DA, right? He was going to be actually, the DA didn't try my case. A lot of people don't know that. It was the attorney general sent 2 of his best attorneys in to actually conduct the trial. And Phil Weiser, he's running for governor. We can't let that guy get in as governor either. He's another Soros and Obama person. But that aside, I just want to say that if you will stand up and do, the Bible says that because you've been faithful in small things, I will give you governance over much. And so and you want to hear at the end of your life, well done, good and faithful servant. I would have never expected when I put my hand up and said, I can do that. I can fix this. And then what happened after that, Alex, was almost once I raised my hand and I said, God, okay, I will do this. I will make the sacrifice to do this. Then things started being put in place, decisions that I had to make. And if you can be swayed by money, power, position, or fear, you can be compromised. People, if people will make that measure against themselves, if you can be swayed by money, power, position, or fear. And there's a lot of people that aren't swayed by money, power, and position necessarily, but they're afraid and they won't get out there and just start and do the things and then let God guide you through it. They know what they're doing and they do it anyway. It's kind of like, okay, come after me. We've already, and I'm speaking for them. We've already captured all the judges, all the DAs through the Soros, all the Secretary of States, they've already, this was a Soros plan from many years ago. I believe started in 2013, probably before that. I know the voting machine fraud was in Venezuela, and Hugo Chavez bragged that he was going to put a black president in. So this goes back, and even the Democrats will tell you they know that the machines cheat. They're on on the movie selection code that's on my website. There is you hear Kamala Harris and all these people saying that the voting machines can be hacked out of their own mouth. So they're just using it to their advantage, and no one is stopping them.
All right, joining us is Tina Peters. What a hero, demonized by the left, thrown into prison. They tried to kill her. And finally, she is out of prison. She, of course, was an election official, Mesa County clerk, did her job, documented the fraud. Of course, you have the Soros-appointed state-level controller that leaked all the codes to the voting machines right before. Just unbelievable. TinaPeters.us, real Tina Peters on X. Tina Peters, a Navy SEAL Gold Star mom and cancer survivor, is a former Mesa County clerk in Colorado whose career ended in high-profile conviction for election interference. Motivated by desire to expose alleged voting irregularities, Peters authorized a forensic backup of the county's Dominion voting system server in 2021, allowing an associate of Mike Lindell unauthorized access to the election. This is what Wikipedia says. That was Lindell out there investigating, spent his whole fortune on this, these fights. In August 2024, a jury convicted Peters on 7 of 10 charges, including first-degree official misconduct, conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation, and attempting to influence a public servant. They want to send a message: you expose election fraud, we're going to throw your ass in prison, like the UPS driver and the drivers for the Postal Service that found all the ballots filled out just for Joe Biden being brought into the state of Pennsylvania and other states. Now, October 24, she was sentenced to 9 years of incarceration, 8.5 years of state prison, followed by 6 months in jail. The presiding judge condemned her actions as a betrayal of public trust that caused immeasurable damage to election integrity, while Peters maintains her innocence. Of course, she's a hero, viewing herself as a whistleblower protecting election transparency. Tina Peters was released on parole on June 1st, 2026, after serving approximately 20 months of her 9-year sentence, thanks to pressure by the public and President Trump. Meanwhile, who should be in prison is the Colorado election monster, Secretary of State Gina Griswold, the Soros operative. So we'll talk about all this with her. I'm going to try to give her the floor. Beautiful lady at a beautiful place she's at right there. Wow, I wish I was there. She'll talk about prison life, the good, the bad, and the truth. President Trump, Governor Polis, and the commutation, and what's next, prison reform and election integrity with the midterms less than 5 months out. We couldn't have a better guest here. If we had more men and women like her, we wouldn't be in the dire straits we're in. So, Tina, thank you so much. We all salute you, and it's good to see you out of that hellhole.
I'm telling you, a hellhole it was. And Alex, thank you for having me on and shining light on all the problems with Colorado and across the country with our elections.
Thank you. You're the person that experienced it all. I kind of want to go back to the election and what you saw and what you really did, because I followed it versus what the corporate media said. And then the whole sham, who the real bad guys were. Obviously, the Soros Secretary of State, similar people like her. Even the state tried to disqualify Trump off the ballot, a panel of judges. They tried it in Maine. I mean, these are the people openly trying to steal elections by taking Trump off the ballot, all the things they've done, the vindication now that it's come out of Venezuela and China, what they've done with the machines. I mean, you and Lindell and others are just totally vindicated, but the corporate media won't report on it. And then what prison was like, what it was like to finally get out, and then the upcoming midterms. Start wherever you'd like.
Well, it all started. I was, as you said, I was a Gold Star mom. I stepped up to run for office because I thought I could reduce the 3.5-hour wait times, Alex, in our local. We'd had a building business for 32 years. And I said, I can fix that. Stepped up to do that, made a lot of changes in the clerk's office. Everything went well. Until I exposed that they were cheating in the elections. And it's interesting because out there, they say that that it was because of the 2020 election. Trump won in our county. Our county was a what we considered a conservative county. He won in Mesa County. It was a municipal election. And this should scare everyone. It's a municipal election. When I pulled those records that night, because I was in charge of 5 divisions and elections was one of them. When I pulled those results that night, I said, there's no way. There's no way those people won. Nobody even knew them. One was appointed by Polis. One had come from California. Our hardworking candidates that had been out there with huge crowds lost, and people that no one knew won. And so I was suspicious because Jenna Griswold, the person that you were just talking about, was coming in to do what they called a trusted build. Her staff and Dominion voting systems in a little over a month. And I said, we have got to make sure we know what they're doing. I'd heard they were going to delete election records. And so I wanted to do a backup, a legal backup, which was just a preservation of election files before they came in and after they left, and compare the two. When they found out at Mike's symposium in August, so we did this in May, the press would have you to believe, Alex, that this was an unauthorized person. Well, this was a person. First, I went to the county and I asked for help. Nobody would help me. This was a person who was very qualified, had done work for the government in the cyber arena, and so he came in. It was my call to have him in according to the law. I was elected by the people to bring in anyone that I wanted to oversee the elections and to make a backup of the records. So as soon as they found out that they had been exposed, there were 29,000 vital election records of the 2020 and the 2021 election that were deleted. There were parts made in China. There were modems inside the equipment. So many things that it took 3 separate reports. One released in September of 2021, one released and the other 2 released in March of 2022. When this came out, I took it to the first one. I took it to the DA. I made the commissioners aware of it, and all they did was come after me with force. Ended up taking the machines, seizing the machines, and John Polis, who is the president of Dominion, came in and told the county that they had to buy new machines, and that the county ended up signing a 6-year extension to the contract. So all of this has been to shut me up about what we found in the Mesa County reports, 1, 2, and 3 that are on my website.
How frustrating was it to sit there in prison? Because I followed the case. I knew the details, obviously, not as much as you, but I knew the facts. To have them totally misrepresent what you did while you had this Soros operative at the state level that gave away the code keys right before to the machines for whatever reason and was involved in all these cover-ups, and then them coming after you for documenting the fraud. How frustrating was that?
That was, here's what happened, because we know every time there was an election, and I would see it on, because I did get Fox News. That's about all I got in prison, after buying my $300 tiny TV. So I was watching Fox News, and when Mondami, was out there, and I said, he's going to win. Spamberger, I said, she's going to win 51%. It's going to happen. And I mean, it wasn't like I had a crystal ball. I know what these machines are capable of doing. So I was just like a horse at a starting gate going, why aren't they bringing out the information that we've already proven? Jenna Griswold should be in prison. Right now, she's for the highest attorney in the state of Colorado for AG. And she is... her ads are saying that she credits herself with putting me in prison. So it was very frustrating. And we tried to get, during the trial, they denied 41 motions by my attorneys, 41 motions. They would not allow due process. They violated my First Amendment right to speak. The judge sentenced me to such a harsh sentence because of my view on voting machines. And they would not let us use the U.S. code that says it was my duty federally to preserve election records, because the supremacy clauses should have never been prosecuted in a state court. So it was very frustrating. But let me tell you about Jenna Griswold. Besides running for Secretary of State, I ran against her in 2022. Even after all this was found out, I said, I've got to run right into the belly of this beast. So I ran for her office after we discovered all this, and announced I was running for office on February 14th on Steve Bannon's show, and just a week or so later they indicted me. I kept running. In 4 months, I raised more money than the other 2 opponents, and actually won the primary. When I went to have the recount, because we knew that we saw votes flipping. Alex, we could see, our cyber experts could see votes flipping from one person to the other. And when we asked for a recount, she did it illegally. She said in the law, it says that they have to compare what the machine said to a hand count of sampling of the ballots. And she completely ignored that. She completely ignored the HAVA law that Peter Berninger just put out on about a week ago, a lawsuit against Jenna for accepting federal funds and violating voters' rights. So this woman is you're right, she's a Soros operative. She's put in there, and she's going to win if we don't get these machines. And I've told President Trump this. He called me. I'm very grateful, and we can talk about that. But I said, why is no one talking about this? So we're going to be able to talk, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, let's go back, because you know more about than I do, and I'm going from memory, about some of the shenanigans she's pulled in the state. I mean, in my view, she's the one that should be under investigation, indicted, and in prison. She's a known Soros operative, just like in Michigan, all over. It's the same story over and over again, the things they pull, and some of the things she did in the 2020 election.
Yeah. So it's interesting that the woman that was running against me for Secretary of State her name was Pam Anderson. If that sounds familiar, her mother-in-law is Norma Anderson, the one that filed the lawsuit against Trump to keep Trump off the ballot. And she was also, Pam was also the head of CTCL, remember, Center for Tech and Civic Life, back when Zuckerberg was putting all this money into places to elect Joe Biden. I don't know.
$400 plus million.
Yes, 480 million or something like that. So these are people that are known criminals and need to be in prison. I like that. That's a nice picture.
I do silly stuff.
And that guy right there, the guy that you were just showing, Alex, right there beside her, Matt Crane, he's head of the Colorado County Clerks Association. So over 64 counties, he's the one that advises them and supposed to be the liaison, yes, between Jenna. His wife has worked for Smartmatic and Dominion for over 2 decades. So tell me there's not some something going on there. Exactly. So it's, and then.
I'm sorry, this stuff is so serious. I joke around a little bit so I don't go crazy.
I know. Well, you have to laugh because it gets so ridiculous. I mean, there's so much.
Here we are. Partial voting systems passwords were exposed on Colorado Secretary of State's website. Well, I'm sure that's just an honest mistake.
No, they were all of them on and see, so when you were talking about the charges against me, so influencing a public servant, the felony 4 that I got, that I was charged with, one of the felonies that accounted for my 9 years was influencing a public servant. Do you know who that public servant was?
Tell us.
It was the guy sitting there deleting 29,000 election records off the server that I swore an oath to Colorado and an oath to the
and aren't you supposed to keep, I forget state and federal laws, like 2 to 4 years, aren't you supposed to keep records? And didn't they later themselves, once they got statewide, destroy a bunch of evidence?
Oh yes. So well, that's what they did. So what they did was they went in and destroyed the evidence of the 2020 election off the server. And we have the proof, Alex. We have the images. They're unalterable images that were that point of time on the election server, and then after they left that point of time. So we have the proof when you compare the two. And I encourage everyone to go on tinapeters.us, go and read the Mesa County reports 1, 2, and 3. You can just read the executive summary, and it will blow your mind what we have proof of. So why isn't these people in prison?
That's right. Everybody should go to your site right now. Invaluable information, tinapeters.us. Obviously, they threw you in prison to send a message to any other election officials that would dare do what you've done. And now others, we learn, have as well, and whistleblown and things have been a little more careful or not as bold as you, which you weren't being bold, you're doing your job. But Obviously, they wanted to send a message to scare other people, but more importantly, they wanted to lock you up as a witness, didn't they, to discredit you and try to shut down you being able to testify. How soon until you're testifying before Congress? Because obviously that's what we need to hear.
Well, and that's what I'm waiting. I'm asking why isn't the information Tulsi Gabbard has? Why hasn't that been released? It was last year where she said we have more than enough information and proof on the election machines to bring charges. Where are the charges? Why is nothing happening? And so that's what I'm seeking to find out. And we have the evidence. We have the people that actually did it. And then you can go back to, and I'm sure you've probably covered this, go back to the whistleblowers out of Venezuela that worked under Hugo Chavez and Maduro. And so now we have Delcy Rodriguez as the president down there. She was the head of CNE, who was the people that conduct the elections. And those elections, I don't know how much you've talked to your supporters about this, but this has been a huge election scheme where people have risked their lives to come forward to be whistleblowers in what's been going on in 72 countries around the world. There were files on my machine from the Philippines, sometime it would be good to have Mark Cook on so he can show you. He has the image of the Mesa County server on his computer, and he can show you without passwords or anything how easy it was to get in, how easy it is to get in and flip the vote. And you can do it in just minutes.
Yes, I've had Peter Tickton on, those really helped you a lot. A great guy, Trump confidant lawyer. We've had on Patrick Byrne and a bunch of others, and it's very cut and dry. And I talked to people that were in the cabinet meetings. Oh, this was back in November of last year, so about 9 months ago, who were in the cabinet meeting, and they were actually defending Susie Wiles. They're like, no, Susie Wiles is running it. Trump came in for a lot of it. Vance was there, and they said, no, we've got the proof. It's all true. The Chinese ran it through Taiwan, through Venezuela. They're doing it in over 100 countries, and we're going to start releasing all the stuff in January. And then basically a little bit came out, but then it just stopped. Tulsi raided Georgia, and so we know this. And the president was given a presentation saying it's all true, sir. What Mike Lindell, what all his experts say, what Tina Peters said. Trump's like, I want on that. And then now they've put the deputy communist dictator in who helped run all this in a deal after we got rid of Maduro. And you've got Todd Blanche up there, the Democrat Party operative, and everything has just come to a screeching halt, I'm told by my DOJ sources.
Yes. And why? Well, who is clogging up the works? The only thing that I can make because here we have elections going on that have been going on right now. And now you look at Mandami, he's getting all kinds of people that are his followers are getting elected. That's not an accident. Nobody wants to vote for a communist. I'm sorry. We still are a nation of patriots. And, 1% of the people that are rebel rousers and evil people do not represent our country.
You're totally right. Mondami is literally a communist Islamicist. He's now the kingmaker, not just in New York. And notice, magically, Republican money and even AIPAC money can beat Massey, but nobody can beat these blue cities because it's well known. It's fraud run, and now the hardcore communists have control of the Democrat machine. They're taking over the party. If you thought Schumer was bad and all that, no, they're bringing in even a worse crew. And you're absolutely right. And so the left is digging in, putting in hardcore communists to try to counter our populist awakening.
Yes, it's happening. And that's what's so frustrating for me. You ask why, about prison. Every day, I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I would start working towards, all of the elections and making this right. And still continuing from there to save this country. I mean, Apollo was on doing my shows. I have such a team of supporters. And of course, the news about me being wrongly incarcerated it's done the opposite to what they hoped to do, which was silent me and kill the message. It has put the message forward. But we're in dire straits. We have to stand up and stop these people from being elected. And the foundations of our country, this, Alex, the foundations are the elections. because we wouldn't have these people making these crazy rules. I'll give you a good example. Ed Solomon and my team has uncovered over 200 records. I don't want to get too much ahead of the cart here, but because it's not out yet. But we have proof of what they're doing with the votes. Let me give you an example. In Arapahoe County, Colorado, supposedly Republicans voted to raise our taxes, our property taxes. When you go through and you look on how people voted, they voted sanely on everything else. And then all of a sudden the Republicans said, oh, we think we want higher taxes. There were some other issues on that ballot. So it's not just officials that are being selected. There are ballot issues, legalization of this or that and the other, legalization of abortion. We've found every person that believes that abortion is not a human right, that it is a human violation, should be outraged that they're using these machines and these fraudulent elections to make abortion legal.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it when we come back on the other side with a true American hero. She is. And courage is contagious. Hopefully it spreads. Tina Peters is our guest. Stay with us. We have the 250th birthday limited edition run of awesome designs for this July 4th, 2026 coming up. And they're now available to ship to you as of today, Monday, June 15th, 2026. And they'll be available only through July. They're limited edition, and then that's it. And they fundraise for the broadcast. But I got to say, I'm very impressed with the designs that Bigley came up with. I was heavily involved in this, and the concepts like Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition with the rattlesnake and the AR-15, Liberty or Death, 1776 to 2026. That is a really nice shirt. I designed this one, very simple. America 250 years strong. And these are just very clean, Americana, high-quality fabric, very comfortable. Destroying Tyranny since 1776. I did that concept. These are very, very clean. I'm proud of these. I think these are shirts everybody would want to wear. I would certainly want to wear these. America, ride fast, live free. Just a classic Betsy Ross flag. 1776 free. They came up with that. I think that's pretty cool. Defund the deep state. That's pretty cool. I like that really clean one right there. 1776, 250 years of freedom. They designed that. Very clean, very nice. So you want nice, clean, patriotic apparel that, won't get you stabbed by a liberal, but other patriots will know who you are. You can kind of promote liberty and kind of identify who you are. It's fun to wear these shirts, I can tell you that right now. You kind of choose your own adventure. You wear an Alex Jones shirt, then you're really going to meet a lot of cool people, but you also might get a bottle smashed over your head. So hundreds and hundreds of great designs from the Gulf of America to you name it. That's a good looking shirt right there at thealexjonesstore.com.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. Live from Austin, Texas, you're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Something like 75% of Congress are lawyers. And I'm not on some attack lawyer jag. You need good lawyers to counter bad lawyers. But what we need is, like Thomas Jefferson said, is farmers and doctors and engineers and shopkeepers and normal people that know the real world. And, you got Tina Peters, who sees 3-hour lines at the local voting, so she gets involved, runs for office, becomes the election official, gets in there, sees corruption, does her job, demonized, thrown in prison. And I was so angry watching him still 2020, and I've been involved in elections, and would see Pat Buchanan getting 60% of the vote at the downtown tabulation center when I was a senior in high school the first time he ran, and then in college, volunteering, putting out his street signs. And I would run around to the different sites where they're putting in the Scantrons. I was saying, "Are you getting the majority of Pat Buchanan?" They go, "Yeah." They announced the winner at 3 a.m. and Buchanan has less than 10%. And I'm like, it's fraud. I saw it. And then it came out later, Travis County got caught. I went and complained at a later election years later. The state still certified the election, even though they admitted the quote, anomalies. So I'm already really frustrated about this. And then she's a smart, amazing lady and she's innocent, so it adds insult to injury, making it even more personal to everybody. And so I feel like I know her. It's surreal here talking to her, and Trump championing getting her out. So many others did, and just to know what she's gone through. And then I just say, after her son dying in combat, and the Gold Star mom, and then beating cancer, and being in prison for years, she still looks amazing. I'm like, draft her for governor. These are the type of people that we need. To get engaged. And if more people like her did do this, we would save the country much quicker, though we've turned the tide. So we've got about 20 minutes left. It's such an honor to have you. I want you to go wherever you want now with all of this, with what's next, prison reform and election integrity, the midterms coming up, what prison life was like. Elaborate on that. How were you treated? And, how did your faith in God, obviously get you through this? President Trump, Governor Polis, and the computation. So I'm going to just shut up and give you the floor. It's amazing to have you here. Everything you want to tell people that you wanted to say when you were in prison, or you go on Fox, but it just turns into a 5-minute soundbite. You can really talk to millions of people right now and really give them an idea of where we stand, because I see you as a major leader in this fight, and we salute you. I think you're muted, Tina. Maybe unmute yourself. It's okay. Go ahead. Yeah, did we mute her? Or is she muted on our end?
There. Can you hear me?
There you go. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Start over.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you, Alex. You're bold, and that's what I appreciate about you. You don't mince words. You get it out there, and I think that's the problems of some of the media, and Fox. I mean, there's certain things they won't talk about, and so shows like yours that just provoke people to bring the truth out. I really appreciate it. So with what I want people to understand, and this is people look at me now and they go, oh, well, if I was just Tina Peters, I could have done this or that. I was a nobody. I was just someone that stepped up to fix the 3.5-hour wait times at Motor V. I had skills, I had things that I felt that I could put to use to help the people in my county. And I think that's the most important thing. If you have a heart for people, when I was being prepared for trial, and I had a really tough attorney that was going to step in and be the DA, right? He was going to be actually, the DA didn't try my case. A lot of people don't know that. It was the attorney general sent 2 of his best attorneys in to actually conduct the trial. And Phil Weiser, he's running for governor. We can't let that guy get in as governor either. He's another Soros and Obama person. But that aside, I just want to say that if you will stand up and do, the Bible says that because you've been faithful in small things, I will give you governance over much. And so and you want to hear at the end of your life, well done, good and faithful servant. I would have never expected when I put my hand up and said, I can do that. I can fix this. And then what happened after that, Alex, was almost once I raised my hand and I said, God, okay, I will do this. I will make the sacrifice to do this. Then things started being put in place, decisions that I had to make. And if you can be swayed by money, power, position, or fear, you can be compromised. People, if people will make that measure against themselves, if you can be swayed by money, power, position, or fear. And there's a lot of people that aren't swayed by money, power, and position necessarily, but they're afraid and they won't get out there and just start and do the things and then let God guide you through it. So prison was horrible, as you can imagine. I was targeted. At first, I was in jail. There's a difference between jail and prison. And a lot of people say I was in jail. I was in jail. I was in 2 different jails. When I was in Mesa County Jail, I was still doing my shows, and I was speaking out about the injustices in the county jail. All of a sudden, after 2 months, at 4:00 in the morning, they came to my cell and said, pack up, wouldn't tell me where I was going. I said, well, I'm not going anywhere until you tell me where I'm going. Fine, because I just wouldn't move. I said, I'm going to make a phone call. Phone's not on. Well, I'm not leaving. So finally, they told me you're going to Larimer County. And I thought, oh, well, that's great. Get out of here. Anything's better than this. So they sent me to another county on a courtesy hold. That's what it was. And then they extended my sentence another 60 days over, that was another illegal thing they did to me. 60 days past when I should have been there. So then from there, I kept doing my show and I was calling people out, and I was like a hot potato. There have been women in there that had tried to get to prison, because prison, it has a few more advantages, but it's prison. It's better than jail because it's set up for the longevity, but it is not good either. But a lot of women had waited like 14 months just to get to prison, right? There's only 2 prisons in Colorado that are women's prisons. There are no minimum prisons in Colorado for women. So I was in with people who were, that became friends of mine that had done atrocious things, shot their boyfriend in the face and killed their children. You go on and on and on. I mean, terrible, terrible things. Chopped up their a person and put them in bags and disposed of the bodies. And I mean, this was prison. This was real prison. So when it came time for me to be released, these other people have been waiting 14 months. I said, I guarantee you, they want to get rid of me. It's going to be the day that my time is up here. They're going to get me on there, because the prison was full. No place to put people. So they're keeping them in jail. Sure enough, the first transport out, I was sent to prison. Well, when I got there, the woman that ran the prison, it wasn't the warden. The warden had given her all this power. She was evil. She had devil statues in her office. She got the word that, to just torment me terribly. And she did. Anything that I tried to do, she would thwart. I was thrown in the hole for 5 times. The last one was the 5th time, but that was when I was getting ready to get out. Anything she could do to make my life miserable. So I learned the laws of the prison. So I would have my attorneys bring in the ARs, the administrative regulations. And then I'd tell people, I say, they can't put you in the hole for months like they're doing. As a matter of fact, in Colorado, Amendment A was passed in 2018, and it said that they can't force people to work, prisoners to work. And they've been doing it for 8 years. These inmates just now won their lawsuit, and the prison just doesn't know what to do about them because they can't punish them anymore. So prisoners knowing their rights, but I went from personal suffering to more purpose, and I saw in prison what I saw made me more determined. The treatment that these people, the abuse of solitary confinement, the not having a voice, they're just hidden away, and then the officers know they can treat them however they want. So I started educating them, and I said, there's certain rules. I mean, I don't know if you saw it on the internet, because that wicked woman put it out right away, but a woman punched me, and you couldn't see that part on camera. And I was able to get my arm up in front of my face like this, and she hit my arm, had a huge bruise for weeks. But they charged me with assault. And so I went to work, and I beat both of the assault and unauthorized absence. I was in a place they said I shouldn't have been, which I would, and I beat them. I appealed them and that sort of thing. But they put me in the hole for that.
So this is the type of a communist-style persecution, trying to get you on something else, obviously knowing you're innocent, throwing you into prison, before that. So did they hold you the whole time for trial?
They held me for 2 weeks. So one of the officers went by, and I said her name. I said, so how long are they going to keep me up here? And where's the other girl that hit me? Well, she got out on parole 2 weeks later. So they said, well, it could be months. It could be a month or 2. And I looked at her and said, they can't keep me longer than it was 14 days. And she goes, your rights. And I said, yeah, I do. See, they treat these women like they're ignorant, but they don't, there's no resources for them. So those kind of things, the medical care was atrocious until we started. So I started having the women write down their testimony, their what it was in the prison That was not, oh yeah, that's it. Okay, so when I'm pulling this in February, you might wonder why in February there is a swamp cooler. It's because my um, cell was 91 and 95.6 degrees. So I'm pulling that in there. This girl gets mad at me, comes in, throws, you'll see her lean in, throws the punch, and I grab her arm that she punched me with, and I push her back until she releases, and then I push away and go on. But they just showed that part. They didn't show the part that people could see from the other direction of her punching me, and then I walked off. That so they wanted to show that I was a lawbreaker. You know, that's what they wanted to show before the trial as well, that I was a lawbreaker. But you, you know, for me, the fight still goes on as far as transparency. Whether it's in prison, there's another thing in prison that is, to me, it is such a abuse of the rights of the inmates there. They provide them this drug called Suboxone, and there was a officer that left the prison. A lot of the officers left under that captain's administration. And she says, Tina, when you get out, she says, tell President Trump about Suboxone. Suboxone is a drug that they use. They tout it as getting people off of drugs. Well, the perfect time to get people off of drugs is when they go to prison, because they're stuck there for a while. But what they do is they give them this drug. They get dependent on this drug. They can't stop it. And they won't tighter them down, little by little. They'll increase it 90 days before they get out. So then they keep that cycle of being addicted. And I believe it might be a federal, I need to check more into it. It may be a federal program.
It is. It's just like the methadone scam. So it basically keeps you addicted while you're in prison.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, even in jail, they would bring people in and then let them dry out, check on them, keep them in an area where they can make sure they're not ODing. Then they would let them dry out. Then they'd put them in general population. And then they would put them back on the drugs, So this is a terrible thing. And I know it has to do with money. Prisons are, they're in business.
It's all about who gets the contracts.
Yes. They're using these people as human sacrifices, and it has to stop.
Well, I'm impressed that you're not just focused on your plight or even on the election fraud, but what you witnessed in the prisons as well. But let's get back to the midterms coming up, because you're dialed into the community that's got their ear to the ground. Trump's tried to get reforms. He's tried to get the DOJ to take action. There's been some action. Now we have this non-native born judge trying to block Trump on voter ID. It doesn't look good. Doesn't look like they got anything in place to really deflect any of the fraud. We've seen the same old games coming out in these other elections around the country. What's your view on the upcoming elections?
I think if we don't do something to get these foreign-made machines a vendor, Alex, should not have that much control and that much secrecy over machines that count our votes. It's
for people that don't know, they say it's proprietary code. They come in these key elections, always where it's close, and they come in, the technicians, and do weird stuff and won't say what they did. For people that don't know, describe what happens.
Well, when in Mesa County, what we found, and they're in the reports, when the ballots would go in, it gets a little complicated probably for the last few minutes we have on the show, but it goes in and it creates another database and it changes the vote on the image. So when they say, well, we'll show you the images, they don't show you the ballots, they show you the images. And those are electronically changed using an adjudication tool that decides what the machine decides what that voter meant. It's a tool that they use, but they abuse it. There's other ways that it's being done as well. But, Mark Cook is there's some interviews that I've done with Mark Cook on my show and that Apollo have done on my show, on my website, that would educate people on the mechanics of how that's done. And of course, then we have the mail-in ballots that once the machines, monkey up the vote, insert votes, then they have to go get the ballots. And then that's why you see at the end of election, oh, wait a minute, we don't have, we can call it, but all the ballots aren't in yet, because they have to do that to cover the call that they made.
Well, you've got the receipts on your website, tinapeters.us, and your show is excellent. I tune in on a routine basis, see clips of it online. But
thank you.
Peter Tickton was on a few months ago, and I saw this even in some of the local news. You had a candidate down in San Antonio where he right away asked for the votes. They mess up and give him the actual votes, and then he sees the same people voting over and over again. Then he goes back to them. They go, oh, no, that was a mistake. Here's the new version. It's the same thing. It gave him an image. So they run this game the same everywhere.
That's right. That's right. I believe that President Trump should do an executive order to ban electronic voting machines across the nation because they are made in foreign countries. They do have vulnerabilities. We showed that ours had 36 wireless devices, Alex, in the voting system. 36 wireless devices. It was able to communicate. Anybody could have communicated through a cell phone.
And then they'll go on the news and say, Tina Peters is crazy. Mike Lindell is nuts. I'm sure you saw last year they defaulted him, the federal judge, meaning he's guilty already for a civil lawsuit with Smartmatic, even though Smartmatic's getting indicted and settling and admitting all this stuff. And the judge just said, you never showed proof that these machines could be remotely accessed, but never let Lindell show proof, even though the damn things plug into a wall and have wireless phones in them on record that the companies admit they access in their own statements, but they say it's proprietary. And the judges said, nope, these computers are siloed, which they're the opposite of. I mean, it's like saying dolphins don't live in the ocean. Trees don't have, green leaves. I mean, Dobermans aren't black. You're not wearing a pink jacket. I mean, it's just they lie to your face with the most obvious stuff.
They know what they're doing, and they do it anyway. It's kind of like, okay, come after me. We've already, and I'm speaking for them. We've already captured all the judges, all the DAs through the Soros, all the Secretary of States. They've already. This was a Soros plan from many years ago. I believe started in 2013, probably before that. I know the voting machine fraud was in Venezuela, and Hugo Chavez bragged that he was going to put a black president in. So this goes back, and even the Democrats will tell you they know that the machines cheat. They're on on the movie selection code that's on my website. There is you hear Kamala Harris and all these people saying that the voting machines can be hacked out of their own mouth. So they're just using it to their advantage, and no one is stopping them. So I believe
exactly. There are hour-long compilations. And I know when they were trying to impeach Trump over election stuff, that Trump was getting ready with these compilations, just like compilations of Democrats calling for attacking the Capitol. And then when they showed that in the impeachment, they shut up real quick. We're on the J6 Commission. But you can show hour-long compilations of them back to the year 2000. Saying these machines are a fraud, they're accessing them, and showing hackers coming in and breaking in just 30 seconds. And then meanwhile, with Mike Lindell, they go, you're defaulted. When you have a jury trial, it's how guilty you are. Same thing was done with me with Sandy Hook. Never even really talked about it. Never did these things. Nobody. They just said, you're defaulted. Then had a show trial where I couldn't counter their evidence. And now Mike Lindell, they're going forward to further destroy him, and I guess it's going to trial soon, and saying he's probably going to win governor. He's ahead, saying he's a liar. No one can access these machines. It's like saying the gasoline was not in a 57 Chevy. I mean, a layperson knows that's not true. The whole point is these are computers.
That's right. That's right. And we don't have control over them. The people that are elected to protect the vote cannot do so because they can't see what the machine is doing. No one can.
Incredible.
And I think that has to stop.
Incredible.
It has to stop.
Well, we've got to get you back on the broadcast. Have you been contacted by Congress? Are they going to have hearings?
Not yet. I haven't. I am going to Washington this week, so we'll see what comes of that. And my case is right now in the Colorado Supreme Court. So let's just hope they don't provoke another 9-0 SCOTUS ruling, and they have the sanity to overturn my case. They have to be able to let you present a defense. They cannot keep you from 41 motions that prove your innocence.
That's what I should have added. They didn't let you put a defense on either. This is the thing they do now.
No, they don't. They convinced.
Remember, Trump couldn't put on a defense with a panel of judges that took him off the ballot in Colorado. I mean, these people are just out of control.
Yes. So, just we've got more information coming out all over the country. And you can access it on the website, at tinapeters.us. I won't give up. I won't give in, and I won't back down.
You're incredible. Well, listen, I know you're busy, but when you get more information, more unfolds, promise you'll visit us from time to time as we accelerate towards the midterms. God bless you, tinapeters.us. What a resource in the fight, because we can't save the elections. We have nothing. You are fighting the most important theater that we've got to take this country back. Thank you so much.
God bless. Thank you, Alex.
That's an incredible lady. That's a hero right there. Now, everybody's talking about forever chemicals, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they just basically never go away. And they've been directly linked to cancer, infertility, obesity, mind fog, neurological disorders exploding. There's a big study harmful forever chemicals in blood of almost every single American. 98.9% of the American people. And that's just these chemicals. That's less than 100 of those 58 different ones that are seen as PFASs. There are hundreds of other chemicals like atrazine, glyphosate, you name it, that are in the water supply. And most bottled water has it. Even if you've got well water runoff, it's got it. It's everywhere because the fuel additives, the list goes on and on. Processed foods, you name it. The thing to do is gravity-fed filters with the highest rated double carbon filters. There's 2 carbon filters in our unit, but each one has 2 layers in itself. So it's double carbon, each one, not just 2 filters. It does 3 gallons an hour of tap water, swamp water, pool water, and everything is non-detectable. These are the platinum standard of filters, the highest rated, highest tested. You can read the studies by top third-party firms that tested it, 2 different ones, thealexshowstore.com. We got a limited run of these, the most beautiful stainless steel, the highest quality. These are like $100 less than similar units that aren't even as good. But those sold out. Several thousand come in early next week. You can pre-order those now, and then it'll probably be a month till a bigger order comes in. If you want to get at the head of the line so that when these come in, you will be shipped to you first, now is the time. Because I would imagine the way they're selling in about a week or so, I was talking to Big League, their sponsor this morning, the pre-order will be sold out when it comes in, and we're going to take it off the site. No more pre-order for the time being. Once that happens, we're going to wait till a bigger shipment comes in because we don't like to even do pre-order, but this is so important. It supports the show. You commit to do it. You know you're going to get it. You're going to get it first. This is hands down and out of the park. Major victory. It is the top of the line, carbon, platinum level, highest quality stainless steel, beautiful unit. Great for your restaurant, great for your home, great for your cabin. It is the very best you're going to get. They sell units that aren't even as good for $400 all day. This starts out at less than $300 for VIPs, like $220. You cannot beat this deal. And it puts together in like 3 minutes, totally easy to use, very durable, tens of thousands of gallons go through it. Then you just buy replacement filters that are inexpensive, the highest quality. Get at the head of the line now and support the broadcast so we can rebuild this information warfare operation, get more hosts, more crew, more reporters. It's a 360 win. Don't wait. The biggest thing you can do for your body, for you and your wife, your husband, your children, your staff, your crew, your coworkers, is have these units in the break room, have these units in your kitchen. It's a beautiful unit. Get yours now at thealexshowstore.com and ensure you get it first before we take it off sale until we finally get it back in stock when a bigger shipment comes in about a month. But a limited shipment coming in, it's about to sell out. Get yours now at thealexjonesstore.com. Also, running for the next 2 weeks is the Start of Summer Super Kickoff Sale. Every 3 days, one of our best-selling supplements will be buy one, get one free. Right now, it's ultramethylene blue, medical grade, the very best out there. You can also get the T3 iodine up to 50% off as well. That's the next 3 days. All the new 250th anniversary limited edition Patriot ball caps and t-shirts, some of the best designs ever, are now on the site as well, and it funds this operation, thealexjonesstore.com. Become a VIP for $30 a month. Cancel anytime. Get $40 to spend in the store. Special deals, special offers, and more at thealexjonesstore.com.